Acho que devemos começar. Antes de mais, boa tarde a todos. Bem-vindos a esta sessão de trabalhos da tarde. Vai ser uma sessão bastante preenchida. Este primeiro painel vamos ter duas apresentações e uma prova de conceito, no seguimento daquelas que foram feitas durante o período da manhã. Como sempre, vou pedir aos convidados para que sejam bastante estritos em termos de cumprimento dos prazos e dos tempos. Não vai haver possibilidade, infelizmente, de ter debate com os oradores. De qualquer forma, já combinámos com qualquer um deles que estará disponível no coffee break e, posteriormente, por mail, por telefone. Eles darão os seus contactos para poderem colocar questões, esclarecer dúvidas, levar um pouco mais além este debate que aqui se inicia. Iremos começar com o Gerban, que é diretor de inovação da Lógica na Holanda desde final de 2006 e é responsável por definir a agenda de inovação do mercado onde trabalha, mas também tem um papel importante na definição do negócio a nível do grupo. E, portanto, eu vou passar a palavra ao Gerban. Please.
Here we go. Is this thing working? Yes, it is. It's always a miracle. All right, thanks a lot. I think I was introduced, but it's really hard to follow as a Dutchman, to be honest. So I hope you will understand my Dutch English, Dinglish as it's called. Thanks for having me here today. Happy to be here. Happy to see lots of you coming back after lunch, which is always quite difficult, I know. My name is Gerban. I'm Director of Innovation for Logica in the Netherlands, but I also have a role within the group of Logica for business innovation, and that's what I'll be talking about today. Like I said, I'm responsible for innovation, but innovation is one of those terms that's really being misused or abused, so to say, nowadays. So that's why we always have a clear definition of innovation, which is the triangle which is showed in the middle. It's really small, but you can probably look at it afterwards when the slides are handed out. For us, innovation is really the sum of technology, creativity, and organization, because we know that in innovation, it's more existing technology instead of state-of-the-art technology, but it's existing technology that has to be applied creatively in order to create value for end users. And then, of course, if you have experience in organizing innovation, you know how to increase the conversion of your efforts in innovation. But let's look at next generation networks and why we think it's about time that they are really being rolled out. First of all, we're quite active in innovation because it's in our mission. We are really aiming to become the most innovative partner of our clients. And we do that by developing both thought leadership, which is theory, and by participating in lots of innovation projects, which I will talk about later on. Together, that will result in an innovation management consulting practice, which is quite active. Now, I won't bother you with all those small pictures here because you can't read them anyway. But what is important is that we have three focus areas of innovation, which is commerce, which is really about the trade and new ways of earning money in the new decade. It's about collaboration, which has to do with collaborating systems, organizations, and people. And we're into sustainability. But in practice, that means that we have many projects that we can build upon. And I'm just mentioning a few of them over here, just to make clear what we mean by that. First of all, we're participating in a huge project called the Car of the Future. In which we both help developing an online collaboration platform, but also developing the smart grid. And smart grid is a word that you guys know over here as well, of course, because in the electricity world it's quite relevant. And our colleagues in Portugal, together with the Dutch colleagues, are, let's say, the most advanced in smart grid and in related technologies. We're also investing in emerging technologies like biometrics and augmented reality, and they are quite relevant for the topic of today as well, for leisure and tourism and culture, because those technologies are really able to improve services and create experiences. I'll have some interesting examples later on. And then there's this new phenomenon of multi-touch screens, multi-touch interfacing. You've probably heard of Microsoft Surface, for instance, the new multi-touch interface, which we will also see in Windows 7 to be introduced later this year. In that area, we're already working together with clients to discover what the value of multi-touch interfacing will be. And you will see that multi-touch interfacing also ties into broadband access. You see a funny name here. I was warned not to use that word. We are working together with Rabobank. I understand that if you pronounce that in Portuguese, Rabo, that's something else, eh? But it's a serious bank, so let's just be sure about that. And there are many other innovation projects that we have, which you can probably better look back at logica.tv, where you can have a look at the projects we have. Now, we do this from several countries within Europe, but they are all working together with their own specialties. In the Netherlands, we have payments, for instance, and mobility. Here in Portugal, we have energy and utility, amongst others, as specialties. In the UK, we have biometrics and augmented reality, and that all works together in a nice way. So let's look at some developments that are relevant for the statement of broadband access. Just how important is the network at all? Well, first of all, I think most of you are using smartphones, Blackberries, iPhones, or G1s that really already give you an insight of what the future will be like. But also, we're using the web for communication. Some of us still in email, of course, but the younger ones will use Twitter on a large scale. I think I've seen a screen in the back that we're also twittering about this event today. I can't read that, it's in Portuguese, but I will understand it anyway. But in LinkedIn, for instance, we probably all know LinkedIn, which is the way of doing social networking in a business context. But the new way to do that is Poken. Anybody have a Poken? I haven't seen anybody with a Poken yet. Poken is a simple device which simply, if you meet somebody else who also has a Poken, you simply touch each other, and all contact details are exchanged automatically. For instance, today, if all of you would have a Poken, we would simply just touch each other, and then later on I would just enter it in the USB of my PC, and then all the networks that I have put into my Poken will be connected to yours. Because nowadays we have so many networks that it's simply difficult to keep up. So Poken is really the new way of doing social networking. But we're also seeing that Google is fighting Microsoft on different areas. You've probably heard about Bing, the new search engine of Microsoft being launched. But even yesterday, Google already announced their new step forward, introducing a whole operating system for new PCs, which will deliver quick access to the web. And you probably know that Google already has a lot of programs on the web for which you don't need your operating system at all anymore. And it all tells you that broadband access is really becoming important because our life is really depending on the network. Let's focus a little bit more on those developments because they're relevant for leisure and tourism as well. In technology, we see that a lot of devices are becoming multifunctional. Media are converging to each other, and we also have screens and antennas everywhere. Production, of course, is getting cheaper, but also connectivity is becoming easier. So lots of screens and antennas around us. Whereas the business is really struggling with the new economy and the new media. As a company or as an organization, it's really hard to keep up with the pace at which your clients are changing. And it's really a struggle out there to keep your clients loyal and to reward them for being your client. And especially old companies or traditional companies have a lot of trouble in keeping their position. Whereas the consumer, especially the younger ones, are showing no loyalty at all. We call that the loyalty of one mouse click. If you're growing up in these times, you know that you can simply change supplier, whether it's a mobile operator, whether it's a cable provider, whether it's a bank. You can simply change supplier with one mouse click. That really is something. They're participating in a lot of social networks, and they've had connectivity around for such a long time that it has become a necessity. It's conditional. And they call that online oxygen. Let's focus a little bit more on that, because consumers that show online oxygen attitude, they have consumed more than 250,000 messages by the age of 21. That's chat, SMS, text, or email, whatever messages, but that's really a lot. So they've learned to consume them and to process all those messages. Also, they're spending a lot of time on the internet, but even more on gaming, so they know how to handle all those virtual applications and channels. But mind you, we're not talking just about young people. It's also the silver generation, baby boomers, people that have time to invest in new media that are really coming up. We see net grannies coming up, for instance. So that means that there's a different behavior out there which applies to the business we're talking about today, tourism and leisure. New consumers are excellent in trying out whatever there is out there. There's no risk in trying anymore. If you buy a product or a service, especially a product, for 100 euros, like a pair of Nikes, and you don't like them afterwards or they're too small, you simply resell them on eBay for 75 euros. So your risk is only 25 euros instead of 100 euros. And that's a different ballgame. So they're also becoming professional consumers, comparing results, knowing what to buy, where, etc. They're working together, of course, forming opinions together, which is called groupinion, collaborating together. And also they want to be part of a community, but not just to be part of the community, but also to broadcast yourself. Your identity is becoming more and more important. And we see that in lots of social media, of course, but also the power of Twitter, for instance, as a social media. We've seen it in the Iranian elections. Very powerful. I'm sure you all have heard of it. But even yesterday I saw a good example of that, and Rui is like, oh no, not this video, but let's have a look at a small video. The Rui video. Anybody listening? Yeah, Rui video, yes. Should I start it up here? Okay. Waving at me, so I will. There we go.
Deep in the center of my being, you are indeed a reflection of me. You are my good night's rest, my full day of accomplishments. You are a constant reminder of why I'm here. You, like me, bear seeds that lead to you.
Rui, where am I?
I don't know.
That was my colleague Rui Guedes from Logica. The thing is, I'm staying at the Hotel Altis Belém, which is a few hundred meters down there. A fairly new hotel, but as I understood, nobody knows it yet. I just entered there, and just by accident, there was a huge party going on. The introduction of a new website with a catwalk and nice people walking around, of course, lots of famous people I heard. So I just used my 200 euro flip video device. It's really a cheap, simple device. It's a high quality, high definition video device. And I just taped it because I was enthusiastic about the hotel and about the whole event. But afterward, I wanted to simply put it on the web. It's got a USB connection. It's really simple as that. But the files are 20 megabytes. So the trouble I had in putting it on the web and sharing it with my friends was much bigger than just simply videoing the event and put it online. The thing that we need in these cases for hotels, for instance, is to facilitate this kind of testimonials, because, you know, what is stronger than me as a customer advising my friends that this is a cool hotel and everybody should go there? And that's exactly why we need broadband in those cases. Where's my remote control? Here I am. Well, let's continue. From a technology point of view, we also see some relevant developments. Connectivity is, of course, everywhere. I already told you about that. But it's connectivity, it's not high speed. Especially in the mobile arena, we still see the lack of real broadband. And you will see that if we have broadband access on the fixed internet, that we will also need extra broadband connectivity on the mobile web as well, of course. But again, there are screens everywhere, and especially touch is really the most relevant development there. But we also see new form factors, contact lenses becoming interactive, screens in cars coming up, in-car entertainment systems, etc. And we also see context awareness coming up. And that's quite important, because the fact that the devices will know where you are, but also maybe how you feel, or what your emotional state is. Those can be very relevant for the content and the services that you're using. So in those new ages, we will see that context is really adding value to content. A simple example, if I'm in a traffic jam on the road, then traffic information is quite relevant for me. But if I'm sitting in the train next to the road, it's totally irrelevant. So the context of where I am really adds value to content. So that's happening all out there, but still we see that the number of people visiting traditional media or traditional shops and traditional locations are dropping. And it's not really important whether it's 32% or 15% or more, but you will probably recognize that that is the case. And we call that shop or showroom. Traditional retailers like Dixon's, which is an English retailer for electronics, are fighting the internet by lowering their prices. But that's not really important. Business over the internet is about the best service and the best quality at an acceptable price. And now you see that Lidl, for instance, which is a supermarket chain from Germany, is already offering cars to their companies. To their clients, and travel agencies from Germany and the Netherlands are expanding the number of shops they have instead of decreasing. And that's because they say that their shop is not a transaction shop, but it's a showroom. It's the place where you can experience, taste, feel whatever they have to offer instead of really buying the stuff. Now that also applies to the cultural scene and the tourism sector, because it's not about the exposition itself, it's about experiencing whatever you have to offer. Now if a bank is able to transform itself into an experience center, then the tourism sector should especially be able to do that. Tivoli is a good example, which is a leisure park in the middle of Copenhagen, where we have applied biometrics, facial recognition, for season ticket holders. The season ticket holders don't have to stand in line anymore. They can just walk by and they can enter the gate because they are recognized by their face and the gate opens automatically. That's a total VIP experience for those clients. But for Tivoli, they're saving money because they can save on guards on the gate, and they're reducing fraud from 5 to 2%. Now that's quite relevant. Another example here is the bus that's showed here. It's a small picture, but it's a service bus that we have introduced for the province of Zeeland, together with the local libraries, because the communities, the small communities, are getting smaller because the young people are getting out. But companies and organizations still want to keep the level of service up. So that's why we have introduced for them a service bus which integrates all the services like libraries, like money services, like flexible work agencies, etc. So it's really about offering the experience instead of just the acquisition. Let's look at some projects that we are doing right now that are relevant for the sector. One of them is the cooperation together with Philips in the area of Blu-ray disc live. You probably know Blu-ray disc, but the live version is where we combine the high quality, high definition data on the disc together with internet access to get the real-time information. In practice, that would mean that currently it's, if you look at a golf resort, for instance, here in Portugal, you have pretty golf resorts over here, but at the website, I can only look at pictures or small videos. Why not have a flight over all the courses and have a real look at what I'm booking later on? In this case, you can have those high-quality videos on the disc, and then enter the real-time information on prices and advertising via the internet. 2 minutes, wow, speeding up here. Then there's this issue of virtualization and augmented reality, which is an emerging technology that we see in the UK especially, we're investing heavily in. Again, that enables you to enhance reality by adding virtual information. I'll give some nice examples in here. Because for a casino, I can't tell you which one because it's still going on, we're developing new services which start before entering the casino with a converged services portal using Wii, PlayStation, the web and mobile to already play a lot of games. And the higher you score from home, the better games you get when you enter the casino. So you already have a lot of fun before you're there. While you're there, we're using a personalized chip together with biometrics to have extra services because you're recognized and we know what your habits are. And we are also developing an old boys poker room where you can play poker with the famous pokers from other times, which will sit next to you, but they are holographics. Well, in the European Union there are many of such programs, and in most of them we're participating. We're one of the few companies that are participating. Most of them are knowledge institutions, but in the area of digital libraries, for instance, and the way those are accessed, there are some relevant projects. We're currently proposing a new one from time to time, which is really a time machine to enter or to use the digital libraries of libraries all over Europe, combine the content and create a new experience. We've done a lot in grid computing. I won't bother you with that because we don't have time for that anymore. But we're also involved in the future internet, which is about using the smart grid and creating new services, especially for video and data intensive industries. And I would imagine that in tourism, there's lots of that. We also see that the creative industry is really important in this area. That's why we are heading an innovation platform called Create, where we combine the media, the services industry and innovation and research in a triangle. And I think this is as relevant in Portugal as it is in the Netherlands because we have the same characteristics as a country. We are really depending on services economy more than production economy. And personally, I'm in the board of Picnic, which is one of the famous initiatives creating or positioning Amsterdam as the capital for the creative industry. But again, you see that companies like KLM and Vodafone and cable providers like UPC are working together in creating experiences and expanding them to other areas. Lastly, and then I'm finished, time out, there he is. We'll finish with a nice example for the National Shipping Museum, where we're creating new experiences before and after visiting the museum. And again, I have to switch to the other screen. There we go. Because I want to show you, to give you a short flavor of where we're heading. Hope it starts. Yep, here we go. You put it on the screen? Yep. So what you see here is there's no sound, so you can put the sound off. What you see here is using the Surface, which is from Microsoft, accessing the library of the shipping museum in this case, and they have nice, really nice pictures of old ships, and they can't exposition everything that they have. But now you can access all those data in a new way using multi-touch, comparing them, working together with more people, accessing both video and pictures. So you really bring alive the total experience of this museum without actually being there. You can imagine if we have the Google OS or the Windows 7, you can do this from home out of your living room or your PC or whatever. But you will already have a nice experience of a museum, but it could also be a golf court or another leisure park or anything else. All right, I think that was it. Where's my show? Yep. Put it on. It just says thank you, so that's quite simple. I'll be available for other questions, okay?